Honestly, I don't know why so many people hate on this game. I also feel like we weren't sure what we were gonna get. See, Biomutant didn't actually receive a lot of accolades when it was released. No, a lot of people didn't like it. In fact, the main thing that I heard about Biomutant was, well, it looks really good, but it's kind of a crappy game. So I was really surprised when they announced it for the Switch, and I thought, well, what are we gonna get? A crappy looking game and a crappy game? Yay! I'll buy that. Well, in reality, I actually did buy that, and I'm here to talk about it. Before we get into that though, please hit that like and subscribe button if you want me to continue to spend money so you don't have to. But spend money I definitely did, and that's kind of important here because I ended up pre-ordering it and I got it for $30. So a lot of my thoughts on this are at a $29, $99, $30 price range. I will get back to that and why it's important, but I really wanted to know why people hated this game so much because honestly, before it dropped, and I mean initially, not for the Switch, before it dropped way back in the day, I thought it actually looked pretty cool. And it was all the bad reviews and everything that came out about it that just made me turn away from it. And the fact that, I don't know, it was a big risk, you know? It was a full-priced game and everyone was saying it's awful. It just didn't seem worth it. Now that we are in this drought of Switch games and noticed that this came out, figured, you know what, I'll take a flyer on it. $30, it hurts, but could be worse, and maybe I'll actually like the game. And that was where I really started noticing that I don't hate it. I don't know why people do. Yes, I will be the first to acknowledge that this game does not look very good. And yet that was the bright spot for many people who did enjoy it was, oh, at least the game's pretty. Well, it's definitely not pretty on the Switch. The game looks awful. And I mean, not all the time, but a lot of times it looks pretty bad. The environment, the textures, when you compare it to the original, this looks bad. It's not horrible though, like it's definitely playable. It's just it does not look great. And at times even your character looks like something that your cat regurgitated, yet has eyes, or at least one eye. It's not pretty. Now to be honest, it's not that bad, but it is kind of bad. Honestly, I think one of the big things is, in the original one on the PS4, they kind of did this aliasing with the fur, and it kind of made it look realistic, and you can't really do that on the Switch, so it just looks kind of blurry and mushy. Yeah, it looks weird. Although I have to say, in our year of the Lord 2024, I don't really expect that much better from the Nintendo Switch. I mean, you know, have you heard the term born with an old soul? Well, the Nintendo Switch was born with an old structure, and that was 7 years ago. So expecting it's gonna look like fantastic now, I don't. I mean, and not to mention, I'm sure a lot of the A-teams, if you will, are busy getting ready to port games for the next Switch. So we're probably getting a reduced quality, okay? Now, granted, they don't want a reduced price for it, but that being aside, this is sort of what's going to happen in this last year of Switch, and the fact that it is outdated, it's not going to look great. So if you can kind of get past that, though, I feel like there's some actually good stuff about the game. I really actually enjoyed the story. I enjoy the gameplay. It is action-adventure, much in like that open world style where there's a lot of different areas to explore, and you can find little towers or little beacons that will open up the land, so to speak, so you can see where you're going next. You'll meet different tribes, you'll meet different groups of people. They're going to want you to befriend them and to do tasks for them. It's very much open world in that aspect. And honestly, I can see where that game gets annoying and overdone, but if you haven't played it in a while, it's actually pretty fun. And for me, I hadn't, so that experience was really good. I also really enjoyed the crafting. Like, the crafting in this game is next level. There is a ton of stuff to upgrade, not just the blade or not just part of the weapon or the whole thing. Like, you're looking at the handle, you're looking at the grip, you're looking at the actual blade or whatever you're using, parts of the gun, the clip, the barrel. All of that stuff is all upgradable, as well as your clothing. And for me, that really added an importance of exploring, of trying to find more items, because I was positive that there was better loot just hiding around. And that in itself got to be really fun, and I really enjoy that aspect of some games where it becomes like just a looter shooter, and you're just out trying to find epic pieces to form an awesome build or to get that perfect weapon. And there's multiple ways to upgrade your character. Like for me, I really focused on being what they call a Psi Freak, which is a glass cannon, if you will. Mage of the group. I'm not going to be good at close combat, pretty squishy, but I can do some massive damage. And that really played into how I was playing the game as far as upgrading the agility, upgrading intelligence, upgrading my ability with guns. And all of those come out in a skill tree that you can easily access and upgrade. And of course, you can upgrade your skills or add new skills, but you can also upgrade your character, giving them more life, more intelligence, more charisma, that sort of thing. And I don't know, I kind of missed that in a game, especially one that has very simple combat. It's almost hack and slash, if you will, in so many ways. Like, in my situation, it's more like run and gun, but it's that same formula that we're all used to. As well as, like I said, having special skills and abilities that really take your combat up to another level. But ultimately, I think that that's part of the thing that I love about the game, or at least really like about the game, is being able to go off on these explorations of your own where you're trying to find new items to upgrade your equipment or your build or whatever you're working on, and you're having your own little exploration. You run into some gigantic mutated creature that you're going to handle because you know that he's blocking something that's epic, something that you need to make your character even stronger. And just for me, I would get lost in those loops. Yeah, I was off the beaten path. I was kind of doing what I wanted to and really just exploring and having fun in that regard, as well as all the side quests. There's just a lot to do in the game. And yeah, it's very much a basic open world style game, one in which where you are actually out to save the world. I didn't really get into the story much because, well, there's not a lot. There is, but there isn't. Basically, the tree of life is dying, and the biggest issue is that all the tribes that are left on planet Earth aren't willing to unite. And this has to be done to basically protect the tree and to fortify your planet so you have continued growth. But in many ways, this is just a save the world kind of situation that we've played in many games. But when I said there wasn't much of a story, that's sort of what I meant, was just this overarching story of unite everyone, save the world. Kind of done that before. But there is so many other really important stories that happen between the tribes and the decisions that you make, as this is one of those games where there's a light side and a dark side, and your choices dictate which one you start to envelop more of. And of course, there's good and bad things about taking on these characteristics. So that aspect of the game really does grow. And yes, there is a lot more story on the inside of it, if that makes any sense. You know, the inner dialogue between characters and tribes is very fun and interesting. And the overarching story, I think, is something that can be important to the player. For me, I found it really interesting, but I chose to do more deeper dives into what happened and how the planet became the way it was. And, ultimately understanding that it didn't really play much of a factor into the game. Like, once you get into the game, you kind of forget about the whole thing. Like, you know what you're supposed to do, but there are so many other storylines going on between the tribes and working to help other people that you kind of forget, like, oh yeah, we're supposed to save the world. And it does come back to you. Don't get me wrong. Like, you aren't 40 hours in and you're like, oh wait, what the hell was I doing? Like, no, it definitely does come back to you. But I'm just saying that, like, middle part of the game, you do sort of forget. Now, ultimately, yeah, visuals, performance, it could look better, it could perform better. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. The performance wasn't awful, but there was definitely times where there was lags and stutters and things of that nature. I definitely didn't have any crashes. So that is a really good thing. But I have to say, the one thing that is just a super big negative for me was the audio, and not the music or the background audio. No, it's like narration. I ended up turning off the sound completely just because it felt like I was in like an old episode of Thomas the Train or something. It's just weird. And none of the characters actually spoke. Like, you interpret whatever they're saying through this narrator who's telling you what they're saying and kind of telling you what the story is. It's very weird. I don't like that direction. I think that was like the worst part of the game for me, even worse than the visuals, if I'm being honest. But ultimately, I actually really did like this game, and I'm kind of surprised by all the hate that it got. Like, yeah, I could see individuals being disappointed by it or thinking like it should do better, but I think as a solid AA title, it's really good, and that's where I'm gonna go back to the value. The game is $39.99. If it was $29.99, this game would be an 8 out of 10 for me. But the fact that it's $40, it goes down to a 7 out of 10, just because I think it hits it that hard. yeah, there's a lot of content and there's a lot to do, and you're gonna get the bang for your buck. And ultimately, like if you like open world action adventure games, you're also gonna enjoy that aspect as well as the crafting. And even some of the stories and stuff like that really build up to make a pretty good game. But it's just pricey for what it is, because you know you're not getting premium level, especially when it comes to the performance and the graphics. It's nothing game breaking or anything like that, but it just speaks AA. And when I think AA, I think half the cost. So for me, $30, 8 out of 10. Since it's 40 though, it's a 7 out of 10. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Have you played Biomutant? Is it one of those games that you played when it launched? Are you interested in picking it up? Have you never even heard of it? I don't know, anything and everything in the comment section is much appreciated. And just two last little notes here. Number one, I basically play this game fully in handheld, like I always do. And I'll also say, if I'm using a lot of game trailer for this one, it's because I was at a really weird spot when I started recording a video for it, and I don't want to give too much away. So hopefully I have an ability to just restart without losing where I was at, because I haven't completely beat the game. I'm like right there at the end. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. I appreciate you guys. Take care, everyone. Love y'all. Bye-bye.